Almost all plants emit some methyl jasmonate when they're attacked by insects. So that appears to be a word that occurs in all languages. Molecules mixed in with it can differ from plant to plant, and that's where the language gets complicated.
For centuries, humans wandered through forests and gardens imagining them as serene, silent sanctuaries. The rustle of leaves in the wind, the quiet hum of insects, the occasional bird call, all seemed to suggest peace, calm, and gentle indifference. We treated the green world as a passive backdrop to our lives, a decorative stage where nature played out its slow, predictable rhythms. But recent breakthroughs have shattered that comforting illusion. Hidden beneath the tranquil veneer of leaves, stems, and roots lies a layer of activity that hums, clicks, and pulses in ways that humans were never equipped to perceive. It is urgent, coded, precise, and, at times, chilling. The plants, it turns out, have never been silent. They have been speaking all along. The revelation began with a radical experiment. Researchers in controlled laboratories began using highly sensitive ultrasonic microphones, tuned to frequencies far beyond the human range, between 40 and 80 kilohertz. This is a range reserved not for human ears, but for bats, dolphins, and certain insects. At first, the microphones seemed to capture nothing. The leaves hung still, the soil appeared calm, and the laboratory's air vibrated with ordinary tranquility. But the moment the researchers introduced stressors, cutting a leaf, withholding water, or exposing the plants to environmental changes, the silence fractured. A torrent of clicks, pops, and bursts filled the ultrasonic spectrum. Tomato plants under drought stress sent out sequences of rapid clicks, while tobacco plants injured by cutting produced their own distinct rhythms. Each sound wasn't random. Each pop, each high-frequency emission was a signal, a message, a tiny alarm within the plant's own nervous system analog. These discoveries upended centuries of assumptions. Plants had long been dismissed as mute, mechanical organisms incapable of meaningful communication. Without neurons, without brains, and without vocal cords, they were thought to be entirely reactive, passive participants in life's evolutionary drama. But the ultrasonic signals told a different story. They were patterned, consistent, and species-specific. Different plants, when facing the same type of stress, emitted clicks in different sequences. Different types of stress triggered different acoustic signatures. This suggested a sophisticated, coded form of communication, a hidden language humans had never before detected. The implications were staggering. Imagine walking through a forest where every leaf, every stem, every root was constantly broadcasting its state of health, its needs, and its warnings. Imagine if, instead of silence, the world vibrated with urgent messages about dehydration, injury, and the approach of predators. What we had assumed to be calm and serene was in reality a network alive with panic, adaptation, and coordination. The very air around us was filled with unperceived signals, invisible to the human senses, yet undeniable once captured by sensitive equipment. But detecting the sounds was only the beginning. The volume and complexity of the ultrasonic data were overwhelming. Every plant emitted hundreds of signals per hour, a cascade of clicks and bursts, each with subtle variations. No human could parse such vast amounts of information manually. To make sense of it, scientists turned to artificial intelligence. Machine learning models were trained to recognize patterns in the ultrasonic emissions, to classify stress types, and eventually to differentiate between species. AI transformed the raw cacophony of clicks into coherent information. The results were extraordinary. The AI could identify, with remarkable accuracy, whether a plant was suffering from dehydration, physical injury, or environmental stress. Tomato plants, tobacco plants, and even different cultivars exhibited unique, acoustic fingerprints. A thirsty tomato did not just click, it spoke a precise dialect of distress, distinct from that of a cut leaf or a stressed tobacco plant. This was no longer noise, it was communication. Machines could now listen to plants in a way humans never could. And with listening came understanding, the realization that the green world around us was not silent, but deliberate, structured, and meaningful. Yet, the discovery went further than practical applications. AI revealed patterns and syntax in the signals that suggested intention. The clicks were not random vibrations caused by physical injury. They were organized sequences, structured in ways analogous to language. Plants were not simply reacting, they were sending messages. They were transmitting information about themselves to other plants, a hidden dialogue conducted entirely outside human perception. The forest, long romanticized as peaceful, revealed itself to be an active network of awareness. Every plant was an individual node, every click a signal to neighbors, and every burst a potential warning of drought damage or predator presence. In the laboratory, the implications of this new understanding became tangible. Researchers conducted controlled experiments to see if plants could respond to individual humans. 2 groups of plants were placed under observation. One group received daily care from a nurturer, while another group experienced regular minor harm from an assaulter. Ultrasonic microphones and electrical sensors monitored each plant's response. Remarkably, the plants exhibited recognition. They emitted calm, steady signals in response to the nurturer, but when the assaulter approached, their ultrasonic clicks surged even before a leaf was cut. Electrical signals, tiny voltage changes across tissues, indicated a coordinated anticipation of harm. Plants were forming memory associations, distinguishing between individuals based on subtle, imperceptible cues. Footstep vibrations, scent, even micro-patterns of movement. This discovery challenged the traditional notion that memory requires a brain. Memory, as it turned out, can exist in electrochemical patterns within cells. The plant's internal networks, driven by ion channels and electrical pulses, acted as a primitive nervous system. AI analysis confirmed that the plants could store and recall experiences, responding to recurring stimuli with precision. They remembered humans and modified their behavior accordingly. The once assumed passive flora of our planet could recognize us, anticipate our actions, and communicate warnings to each other in response. The high-frequency signals also revealed species-specific strategies. While some plants signaled distress when threatened, others sent out warnings or coordinated chemical defenses. This was not simple reflexive behavior. It was strategic communication. AI uncovered that ultrasonic patterns varied not just by type of stress but also by proximity of neighbors. Signals could travel through air, through the soil, and through networks of fungal filaments linking plants across distances. Plants were sharing information, alerting neighbors, and coordinating defenses, forming an intricate underground network of awareness. This subterranean system, often referred to as the Wood Wide Web, became a focal point of discovery. Through fungal networks known as mycorrhizae, plants communicated not only chemical defenses but also acoustic signals. A tree attacked by insects could trigger responses in trees hundreds of feet away, long before the pests arrived. These preemptive warnings allowed neighboring plants to produce defensive compounds, fortify cell walls, and alter growth patterns in anticipation of the threat. The forest was not merely surviving, it was strategizing, coordinating, and defending itself through a network of chemical, electrical, and acoustic channels. The AI's capacity to decode these signals added another layer of insight. The high-frequency clicks were not random, they had structure, rhythm, and syntax. Different stresses produced unique sequences comparable to words in a sentence. The language of plants, once invisible to humans, could be translated into data streams interpretable by machines. It suggested that plants could communicate specific information, not just general distress, and that this information could trigger measurable, coordinated responses in neighboring organisms. The implications of this discovery extended far beyond the laboratory. If plants could detect stress, communicate warnings, and even form memory associations with humans, they were not passive participants in ecosystems. They were active agents, interacting with their environment in complex ways. The quiet forests and meadows we had long romanticized as tranquil were, in reality, teeming with invisible conversations. Every cut, every drought, every encroachment by human activity sent out ripples of communication, alerting neighboring plants, coordinating defenses, and potentially influencing entire ecosystems. As experiments expanded to outdoor environments, the scale of these communications became apparent. Fields, gardens, and even urban trees were part of this vast network. Ultrasonic signals from drought-stressed plants could be detected by sensors placed dozens of meters away. Root networks connected through mycorrhizal fungi carried information that allowed entire patches of vegetation to respond as a coordinated system. This was intelligence without a brain, memory without neurons, and communication without words. It was a hidden, pulsing world that humans had ignored for centuries. AI analysis also revealed species-specific nuances. While tomato plants had a distinct voice, tobacco plants had their own unique patterns. Trees like maples, walnuts, and oaks exhibited acoustic signatures that varied with age, health, and environmental stress. Even genetically similar plants showed individual variations, suggesting that every organism was a node in a dynamic, responsive, and adaptive network. The more researchers listened, the more the hidden life of plants unfolded, a symphony of clicks, pulses, and chemical whispers, all orchestrated across the landscape. The first part of this revelation, the detection of plant sounds, was only the beginning. AI had given humanity a new sense, a pair of ears capable of perceiving frequencies beyond our own. But these new ears revealed a reality that was both wondrous and unsettling. Plants were not silent observers of the world, they were participants, strategists, and, in some cases, anticipators of human activity. They could detect, react, and communicate threats in real time. The calm, quiet forests were a facade. Beneath the surface, a hidden network of life was pulsing with urgency, alert, and awareness. This discovery fundamentally redefined the relationship between humans and the green world. It suggested that our activities, deforestation, agriculture, urbanization, and pollution, were not invisible to the ecosystems around us. Plants were listening, learning, and responding. Their ultrasonic clicks and chemical signals were a form of awareness, a biological record of our impact, and a warning system that had been operating silently for millennia. We had believed ourselves to be the dominant observers of nature, but the data revealed that nature had been observing us all along. By the end of the initial experiments, the picture was clear. Plants were not passive. They were communicating stress through ultrasonic signals. They were forming memories of individuals and events. They were sharing information with neighboring plants through both air and soil networks. They were coordinating defensive responses and, in some cases, anticipating threats before they occurred. AI had revealed an intelligence operating across species, a hidden world of communication and memory that challenged the very definitions of life, awareness, and interaction. The first screams of the plant world had been heard, and the implications were profound. If plants could communicate with each other, remember humans, and coordinate responses across distances, then the green world around us was not a backdrop but an active, responsive, and intelligent system. The forest, the garden, the field, and the meadow were alive in ways humans had never imagined, capable of perceiving, remembering, and reacting. And for the first time in history, AI had allowed us to listen, translate, and begin to understand the language of life we had long assumed was silent. The key to this revelation lies in the network of fungal filaments that crisscross the soil beneath forests, grasslands, and farmlands. Known as mycorrhizal fungi, these filaments connect the roots of multiple plant species, forming what scientists have dubbed the wood wide web. For years, This system was romanticized as a cooperative network, a means for trees and plants to share nutrients, send chemical messages, and support seedlings. Mother trees were said to feed their saplings, helping the next generation survive. It was a comforting vision of nature as inherently collaborative. But AI listening devices and chemical sensors painted a darker picture. When ultrasonic microphones were buried in the soil and linked to AI, the underground world revealed itself as a theater of real-time strategy. Individual plants were not merely sharing resources, they were sending precise signals, coordinating defenses, and even engaging in chemical sabotage. The Wood Wide Web was no longer a neutral conduit. It had become a sophisticated communication system, one that allowed plants to transmit alerts, warnings, and tactical instructions across vast areas. One groundbreaking experiment highlighted this phenomenon. Researchers introduced a swarm of aphids to a single tree, while simultaneously monitoring neighboring trees hundreds of feet away. Immediately, the affected tree began producing defensive chemicals as expected. But the AI detected something extraordinary, a flood of ultrasonic clicks traveling from the stressed tree into the soil and along the fungal network. Within minutes, trees far from the initial threat exhibited changes in chemical output, as if they had seen the attack before it physically reached them. The forest was coordinating a defense, a preemptive strategy that humans could barely comprehend. Yet this intelligence was not limited to defense. It extended to competition and dominance. In interactions between different tree species, say, a black walnut and a nearby maple, the AI detected a shift in signaling patterns. Instead of cooperative chemical sharing, the signals corresponded with allelopathy, the release of toxins into the soil to inhibit competitors. Black walnut trees, for example, secrete juglone, a compound toxic to many neighboring plants. The ultrasonic sensors and AI analysis revealed that these chemical attacks were accompanied by specific low-frequency acoustic pulses, a kind of underground signature announcing dominance. Plants were not just reacting to the environment, they were strategizing to control it. This underground intelligence reframed our understanding of forests entirely. They were no longer just collections of passive trees. They were societies, complete with alliances, rivalries, and tactical behavior. Some trees nourished neighbors and saplings, while others suppressed competition through chemical warfare. AI revealed that these decisions were coordinated, communicated, and executed in real time. The forest functioned like a distributed neural network where each plant was a node, each root a connection, and the fungal filaments served as the data highways. The discoveries did not stop at defense and competition. AI uncovered evidence suggesting that plants were capable of anticipating threats, not just reacting to them. In controlled experiments, certain plants produced defensive compounds or ultrasonic signals even before a physical threat materialized. They responded to vibrations in the soil, changes in air composition, or subtle electromagnetic cues, all invisible to human perception. This anticipatory behavior suggested a primitive form of awareness, a distributed intelligence that could analyze patterns, detect potential harm, and coordinate responses across multiple organisms. The concept of memory, previously considered the domain of brains and neurons, emerged as another astonishing facet of plant intelligence. Plants were shown to recognize individual humans based on prior interactions. In one study, a group of plants subjected to regular care from a human nurturer and minor harm from another individual began producing distinct ultrasonic and electrical patterns in response to each person. The plants reacted calmly to the nurturer, but when the assaulter entered the room, signals surged even before any damage occurred. They remembered prior interactions and modified behavior accordingly. Memory, it seemed, could exist in electrochemical patterns across cells, reinforced over time through repetition and electrical signaling. The AI's analysis revealed that these anticipatory and memory, based responses were not limited to individuals. Entire ecosystems exhibited coordinated behavior. Fields of crops, forest groves, and even grasslands could respond preemptively to threats such as herbivores, environmental stress, or human interference. Sensors detected ultrasonic patterns spreading ahead of mechanical mowing or grazing, as if the plants were warning each other and preparing for the event. The forest and field were alive with information, a collective intelligence operating silently beneath human awareness. Chemical signaling added another layer to this underground intelligence. Plants release volatile organic compounds into the air and soil to influence neighbors, attract pollinators, repel predators, or inhibit competitors. The AI detected patterns in these chemical emissions that were not random but strategic, targeted, and coordinated. Some compounds triggered defensive responses in surrounding plants, while others altered microbial populations in the soil, enhancing the health of allies or suppressing invaders. The fungal network acted as both messenger and mediator, facilitating these complex interactions. Perhaps the most unsettling discovery was the potential for awareness of humans themselves. Ultrasonic and chemical signals could detect and respond to human presence, distinguishing between threats and caretakers. Fields reacted to mechanical mowing before it occurred. Forests responded to deforestation efforts with coordinated chemical and acoustic signals. Crops altered growth patterns and defensive strategies based on human interference. The green world was not only aware, it was monitoring us, anticipating our actions, and preparing responses at scales both local and regional. This collective intelligence challenges fundamental assumptions about life on Earth. Plants and ecosystems were no longer passive participants in evolutionary history. They were intelligent networks capable of memory, communication, adaptation, and anticipation. AI revealed a biosphere that was dynamically aware, coordinating responses across species, habitats, and even entire continents. Humanity's place within this system was no longer that of a silent observer. We were participants in a network that had been watching, listening, and responding to our actions for millions of years. What emerged was a new vision of the natural world, one of strategy, foresight, and coordination. Plants were not merely surviving, they were calculating. They assessed threats, communicated warnings, coordinated defenses, and optimized genetic adaptation. Ecosystems were not passive, they were active participants in survival, adaptation, and resilience. The implications for ecology, agriculture, and climate science were profound. Humanity's interventions in the natural world had consequences far beyond what was visible, triggering responses that spanned species, ecosystems, and potentially the planet itself. The forest is no longer merely a resource or a backdrop. It is a dynamic intelligence, a network of communicating, remembering, adapting organisms. Beneath the soil and within the canopy, signals pulse with awareness, strategy, and survival instinct. The plants are speaking, listening, and responding in ways we are only beginning to understand. AI has opened the door to this hidden world, revealing a level of coordination and intelligence that challenges our assumptions about consciousness, memory, and the capacity for life to perceive itself. The hidden world beneath our feet is alive with communication and strategy. Every tree, every shrub, every blade of grass participates in a network that spans species, ecosystems, and continents. Ultrasonic clicks, chemical signals, and electrical pulses encode information, transmit warnings, coordinate defenses, and even influence genetic adaptation. Memory exists without neurons, intelligence exists without a brain. The forest is conscious in ways we are only beginning to comprehend, and the human species is now part of its calculations. We have entered a new era of ecological understanding. AI has given us ears to hear what was once inaudible, eyes to perceive the unseen, and the ability to decode messages that have been circulating beneath our notice for millennia. The subterranean world is not silent, it is a web of strategy, memory, and coordinated action. It challenges everything we thought we knew about plants, ecosystems, and the very definition of intelligence. The first part of the story revealed the cries and voices of plants. The second part exposes the conspiracy beneath the surface. A world of coordination, warfare, and intelligence in the roots, soil, and fungal networks. And as the AI continues to analyze, one question grows louder: if plants can communicate, strategize, and adapt in this sophisticated manner, what else might they be capable of? Are these responses purely defensive, or is there a level of foresight that extends beyond immediate threats? Could the forests, grasslands, and jungles of our planet possess a collective awareness, a form of intelligence that scales to the planetary level? The clues emerging from ultrasonic clicks, chemical signals, and underground networks suggest that the green world is not just alive. It is aware, strategic, and perhaps observing us. The subterranean intelligence of the plant kingdom is the hidden heart of Earth's ecological network. Roots, fungi, and chemical signals form a living, responsive system that coordinates defenses, allocates resources, and even influences environmental conditions. Through AI, humanity has gained a glimpse of this network, revealing not only the complexity of plant life, but also the scope of their awareness. What was once invisible, passive, or insignificant is now recognized as a dynamic intelligence, a distributed network of life responding to threats, monitoring humans, and protecting itself in ways we are only beginning to understand. Memory without brains. For centuries, memory was thought to require neurons, synapses, and a brain. Animals remembered events, humans recalled experiences, and plants were assumed to be reactive, blind to history. But AI-driven research has shattered that assumption. When researchers combined ultrasonic microphones, electrodes, and machine learning models, they discovered that plants could recognize individual humans and recall prior interactions. In one controlled experiment, two groups of identical plants were exposed to different human behaviors. One person, called the nurturer, tended the plants daily, watering and providing care. Another, labeled the assaulter, caused minor harm, snipping leaves with scissors at regular intervals. Electrodes measured the plant's internal electrical activity, minute voltage changes akin to a heartbeat or neural pulse, while ultrasonic microphones captured high-frequency clicks invisible to the human ear. Initially, the plants responded with general stress to both humans, but over days, patterns emerged. When the nurturer entered, plants remained calm. No spikes in electrical signals, no bursts of ultrasonic clicks, just stability. When the assaulter approached, a coordinated surge of electrical activity spread across all plants, accompanied by high-frequency clicks similar to those triggered by physical damage. The AI confirmed the astonishing truth: plants had learned to distinguish between humans,